Hello, fellow beings of light. This is a departure from our usual weekly podcast. In fact, I'm not even going to give it an episode number. I don't know if you can tell, but I am buzzing with energy well above my usual vibration at the moment, and with some excitement as well. And I'm suddenly realizing it's a good thing that I've finally gotten smart and realized I needed to start bringing some hot tea into my booth after months of crazy calibration messing with my voice during recordings. Because, well, I think I'm going to be spilling some serious tea here. Before I do, though, I feel the need to remind everyone that regardless of who or what you are listening to in terms of spirit, energy, and light language channels and content, know that you are going to hear things that might not make sense to you or resonate with you in the moment. That's okay. Just be open. Take in what resonates and let go of what does not. Not only that, know that you are going to come across messages, videos, and more that differ from one another. That's okay too. That doesn't make one or the other or even you wrong. This is the point where I usually bring up the telephone game, where the same words, the same message change over time, the more people they are passed through. All of this, it works much the same way. We are receiving from different sources who received from a chain of who knows how many sources before that. So, just like religions, which, if you look hard enough, have a lot of similarities, differences are going to arise over time. Paths will diverge, and things will get lost in translation. Just keep that in mind, not only for this episode, but for life and your perspectives and others in general. So, you are likely noticing there are some changes on our channel and beyond it to our other socials and website. Not to worry, I will get into the reason for those changes shortly. Just bear with me for a little bit as I share with you what has been coming through for me over the course of the last 3 weeks. Not only that, bits and pieces of it have been coming through since last spring. I'm just now getting the full, or at least a fuller picture. That picture, we are following a structure that is not working. We are putting massive amounts of energy into maintaining and supporting a structure that is not working. We are expanding beyond that structure, a structure that is not expanding with us because it is not working. It is not working because of the flaws in the blueprint of this experiment that we call the human experience. And those flaws, they flow into and create flaws in the ascension blueprint. And those flaws, they flow into and create flaws in individual quantum blueprints and beyond into all things. It is an infinitely growing problem. We're talking like thousands, millions, or even billions of years of a growing problem. The longer these flaws continue to exist, the more separated those above and those below become because we are expanding beyond them. The longer these flaws continue to exist, the more separated each of us becomes in terms of lives lived. Reincarnations multiplying infinitely from the original soul aspect of our light body that we descend from. And the more distorted our knowledge, abilities, remembrance, consciousness, and ability to expand and ascend into it becomes because of that. Now, those above, those responsible for the creation of the original experiment, ascension, and initial individual blueprints, they refuse to see those flaws, refuse to change the blueprints, refuse to maybe admit that they were mistaken, that they ignored the probable risk of flaws or failure, and went forward with blueprints that, in our Earth terms, contained bugs in the system. And on Earth, we all know that systems need to be updated to remove or repair these bugs. Otherwise, the system stops working. Now is not the time for getting stuck in old ways. Now is the time for change. And lucky for us, at least I'm hoping anyway, not all of them have refused. One, perhaps even more, have done the opposite, attempted to account for future updates. Isis, she was among those responsible, but through the abilities of some of the light beings she interacted with and gathered during the time the experiment was being developed, she was able to see probabilities, potential futures, where flaws existed, where the blueprints would fail. And when her concerns went unheard and unheeded by her fellow council members, she did what Isis seems to do best, at least in my personal experiences with her across time and dimensions anyway. She stepped in. She interfered. She followed her own path. She selected some or all of those she had gathered during the development, influenced them to join the light bodies who would separate into soul aspects and incarnate on Earth for the experiment. And then she not only influenced the trajectory of each aspect as it incarnated into its first human body, but intentionally held back the sixth and final aspect of each until the time was right. until probable solutions, updates to the flaws could be determined. That time, it's now. There are sixth soul aspects spread across the earth right now. Originals, undistorted by reincarnation after reincarnation. Individuals who not only have access to their undistorted knowledge and abilities, but who have the ability to access the experiences and undistorted knowledge and abilities from their fellow original soul aspects, and even their light body itself. Individuals who, because of all of this, have the ability to correct the flaws in the original blueprints. I know I have received that I am not only a soul aspect of one of those beings gathered by Isis during the time the experiment was being developed, one that could wield energy on a 9D scale to determine future probabilities and do far more with it, but that I am also a sixth soul aspect that she held back until now. And because of this, I can assure you that those sixth soul aspects that were held back, they are slowly but surely incarnating onto Earth and both remembering and expanding to a level that allows them to receive knowledge from above. Knowledge aimed at repairing the flaws in the original blueprints, from the experiment to ascension to each and every individual and beyond. Knowledge that they can use their undistorted knowledge, abilities, and access to other soul aspects, to their light body, to higher levels of energy work to carry out. I say receiving knowledge instead of new or updated blueprints because I believe, from what I have received, that those above, those responsible for the creation of the original blueprints, either can't or won't allow it, that they still refuse to consider it or the means required to do so, still refuse to see that either or both is necessary, even in the face of thousands, millions, or even billions of years of it not achieving the intentions set out. We soul aspects in human bodies below are having the human experience of contrasts. We are expanding into and creating with thoughts and emotions beyond pure light and love, as well as expanding into our remembrance and who and what we are. But we are rarely ascending in terms of how it's defined by the original blueprint, if at all. And we aren't sharing our experiences of expansion with those above so that they can expand their thoughts and emotions, create with them as intended. The whole purpose of the experiment. Now, why don't I suppose you could call them rebels in some sense, like ISIS, create new or updated blueprints then? Those above, they are limited by not only the refusal, but by their lack of expansion into what would make it possible. But those of us below, we are not hindered by those limitations. We have expanded beyond them, whether we have accomplished the intention of the experiment and ascension or not. We have gotten the benefit of that expansion, the experience we were here to achieve while they have not. Because, once again, the established structure does not work. They are unable to send us new or updated blueprints, but they can send knowledge, hints, bits and pieces from those above that have spent time below, like ISIS. And because of that, we're able to experience some of the expansion that was intended, that is required to create new or updated blueprints. That sort of knowledge from above came to me in the form of a scroll during a calibration session with a fellow channel and a group of Arcturians back in October. A scroll that contains what I would call specifications, if we are thinking in terms of blueprints. At the time, I didn't know or understand what that scroll was. I couldn't see what was on it. I only knew that I was being told it was where I was supposed to go next, that it was my next assignment. Fast forward to now, after 4 months of accessing the other 5 soul aspects that broke off from my light body, after weeks of beginning to share and receive knowledge and abilities from them, and opening up and expanding my own, I can now see what is on that scroll. Specifications that roughly set out probable flaws in the experiment blueprint, the ascension blueprint, individual quantum blueprints, and beyond. Specifications that roughly set out probable solutions to those flaws. Guidelines for rehabilitating those blueprints, repairing them, maybe even replacing them. Answers to the why, what, and maybe even a bit of the how of all that has been coming in for me for months, or rather nearly a year, if I really think about it. Calls to action that I have been doing my best to let go and trust, to take in, to be patient in receiving more and more of the picture, and to begin taking steps toward when I do. And here we are, 3 months into the combined launch of the website and offerings being co-created by myself and my team under a name that represents the last major milestone in my journey to this mission, these missions 2 years ago. A name that no longer represents or resonates or aligns with what those offerings have been expanding into, with what I am being called to do and expand into, to reclaim and rehabilitate, reform, repair, or replace those original blueprints that are not working. The blueprint for the experiment, the blueprint for ascension, the individual quantum blueprints. And yeah, I'm guessing the beyond part too. So, in the spirit of releasing that which no longer serves me or all of us collectively, and that which no longer is in alignment with my missions, my calls to action, my journey, I am changing the name our offerings are provided under. We will no longer be your Goddess Awakening moving forward. We will be the Blueprint Reclamation Project. We will be working towards rehabilitating what was to unlock what will be using ninth dimensional energy work. New website, new social media handles, updates to existing videos, and new or expanded offerings and missions. What will those offerings and missions be? Well, they are still very much in development, as I am still receiving and processing, still calibrating and integrating, and all of that fun stuff. And I will be taking my time to work with what is coming in and to work with my team. I will be taking my time to connect with other sixth soul aspects out there where I can. And I have met a few. And I will be taking my time, most importantly, to ensure that we get it right this time. I believe we can do it. I know we can do it. But that continuing development on my end, that doesn't mean that I can't give you some hints, an idea of what is to come. As a whole, it will be all about engineering using ninth dimensional energy work. Yep, another blueprint term. Working to solve the flaws I've been shown, building and improving upon the original blueprints on a collective level, on a light body and original soul aspect level, and on an individual level, building energy bridges that make connections that have been missing from above to below for individuals and for soul aspects and light bodies and across all of those. First off, our channel gridding mission, which finally started to become clear for the first time at the end of last month, will be shifting into our channel engineering mission, which will focus on rehabilitating the flaws in the experiment blueprint. Through it, the primary intention will be to weave 90 energy bridges and both individually and collectively facilitate the sharing of the expansion occurring below with those above across them, so that they may begin to expand as well, unifying all on the same level as was originally intended by that experiment blueprint, without requiring the ascension of all below to make it happen. Beyond the channels from above to below, we will be working to weave similar bridges between below to the diagonal channels, in which communication between ourselves and our team travel through, and between below and the horizontal channels, in which non-ascended soul aspects travel between incarnations. The intent being to better share and to unite across them, to aid and better facilitate all of this. Second will be the launch of our soul engineering offerings, aimed at rehabilitating the flaws in the ascension blueprint, which will include 3 degrees of timeline separation, a one-on-one series that will seek to allow access, sharing, and unification through the weaving of a 9D energy bridge across an individual's past, present, and future. This will identify and unite knowledge, abilities, and obstacles, such as wounds and other blocks that need to be healed into one, into now, in the present, to aid in the individual's journey to remembrance, expansion, and ascension. 6 degrees of soul separation, which some of you have gotten a taste of as I have been sharing my own personal journey through our podcast every other week. It will likely be a combination of both group and one-on-one sessions, and will seek to allow access, sharing, and unification through the weaving of a 9D energy spiral, not a bridge this time, that will not only connect an individual with their original soul aspect and the other 5 original soul aspects of their light body, something which was missing from the original blueprint, but with their light body as well, without the need for ascension to occur first. And once again, there will be that sharing of knowledge, abilities, and obstacles into one, into now. 9 degrees of consciousness separation. This will likely be a series of on-demand courses, which we kind of already got underway with our awareness upgrade course that launched back in November. And it will aid individuals in upgrading individual awareness and taking them from 4D to 9D consciousness, as well as from 4D to 90 energy work. The intent of the series is to aid in expansion, not just below, but above as well through the channel work we talked about earlier, and to ultimately aid in ascension when combined with our 6 degrees of soul separation program. This combination, I think, is necessary to rehabilitate the flaw in the ascension blueprint, because more than us simply rising and uniting with our original soul aspect and our light body is necessary. All of the 6 soul aspects that make up our light body must rise and unite with it in order for it to become one again, to heal the fragmentation that occurred from separation. It's not just about our line of descending or ascending. It is about all of them. Third and finally will be the launch of our quantum engineering offerings, aimed at rehabilitating flaws in the individual quantum blueprints. This will include our existing and expanded podcast, activations, and more. Small pieces of an ever-expanding puzzle that will seek to heal not only internal and external blocks and wounds to our remembrance in the present, but distortions to knowledge, abilities, remembrance, and more that have resulted from individuals undergoing numerous reincarnations beyond their original soul aspect that separated from their light body. Whew, I don't know about all of you, but that's a lot. I know. And if you think hearing me talk about all of it is a lot, imagine receiving all of it. It is some new loops and drops on the roller coaster that has been my personal journey since last spring. But lucky for me, and all above and below, I love roller coasters. Even though, truth be told, there was a time when you couldn't get me near one. And because I now enjoy them, I am enjoying and embracing every minute of this journey of what is coming through. Now, what's next in the immediate future? While I thought I might get to take a few weeks off from content focused on development, I am receiving that the podcast episode that was originally scheduled for today, part 5 of my personal 6 degrees of soul separation journey, will air next week. And the final part of our theme for the second half of winter, reconnecting with your core, with your intuition, with your heart center, and more, will air the following week. Okay, then. That's my team, keeping me on my toes and keeping me moving forward. I hope all of you will join me, not just for those podcast episodes, but in this ever expanding journey and missions of mine. This roller coaster of a ride that I'm on, and that I think that we are all about to be on in the coming weeks, months, and years. If not all of us, then A lot of us. We shall see. Ariska Paketi.